So what I got is this little mini washer spin dryer made by Zenny. And this has, it's quite small, I can tell you, but it's also lightweight, so you could put this right inside your cabin. I'm putting mine out in my solarium porch out here, which is covered, so it's not going to be in the weather. And it will hold a 13-pound load, it says, and it's got the washer unit. As you can see, it's got the washer unit on one side, and then it's got a spin dryer unit. Lift this up. And it's got a spin dryer unit on the other side. Now, I've used spin dryers unit. They also call them extractors someplace. And what they do is they spin the clothes around, and that spins the water out, okay? So it's got a smaller unit on the side for spin dryer. I don't think you can get everything that you get in your washer. You probably have to do it in 2 loads for the spin dryer. But you can see it's got an agitator down there at the bottom. It comes with the drain hose. Now, I had to put my drain hose, because my drain hose is, I had to drain it out the side here, out on the lawn. So I did have to add a piece of hose to it. It's only about 3 feet long, so you may need to add a piece of hose to it. It comes with the hose for the inlet, which you just put in here. It's got, it's got 2 inlets, one for the washer and one for the spinner. If you want to spin your clothes out, add water to your spinner when you're spinning it out. So it has a controller for the timer for the washer. It has a select switch, whether you want it on drain or on soft. And it's got a controller for the spin timer, okay? And it stands, I'd say, probably about 2.5 feet tall and probably about 2.5 feet wide. So it'd fit in a small space for a tiny house or for off-gridders and that, people that don't need a really big washing machine. And this runs off 110 volt, and I'm going to be running it off of my 1500 watt generator. I hope it'll run, because this is my very first load. I haven't used this thing yet. So I'm hoping if it'll run off a 1500 watt generator, then it should also run off a 1500 watt inverter off of your solar system, okay? They're the same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and load this up with some clothes and see exactly how much this will hold in here. So let me go ahead and put my clothes in there. Okay, I've got my clothes in there, and I got a couple pair of sweats, about 5 pair of underwear, 6 socks, and about 6 t-shirts all into that load. And I could probably still even put in more. I don't want to fill it up much more, but I could probably load it up even more than that. So that's about a week's worth of clothes for me, okay? And because, you know, I'm off-grid and I'm retired, I don't have to change my clothes every day like a lot of people do that have to work a regular shift job. So, you know, I wear the same pants for 2 or 3 days before I change them a lot of times. So that's about a week's worth of clothes for me. So that's a pretty good load. It actually holds more clothes than I actually thought it would. So now I'm going to fill this up. Now, if you're hooked up to a interior plumbing, you can fill it up with the hose right from your faucet or from a shower head or something like that if you wanted to. I'm going to use a bucket because my water's off grid and runs free flowing well that runs all the time. So I'm going to use my bucket over there, and I'm going to fill that up full of water. And then I'm just going to put about a quarter of the cup of soap in here. I'm not going to put a lot of soap in here to test this out and see how it works. So we'll flip this on and see how it runs off the generator. Okay, folks, well, I got my laundry done in probably about a half-hour time after I kind of figured out what I was doing with this thing. And I'm really impressed with the spin side of this. This spin dryer, it works really well. The washing side does work fine as long as you don't overload it, and that's what I'm going to talk about here. You really want to wash it. You don't put anything that's in there that's going to get really waterlogged and that's really long, because it tends to hit this piece over here, that guide, and then it just sits there and doesn't do anything. The bottom is turning, but the top and the rest of the clothes aren't spinning. So that's one thing I had to do, and the reason it was causing a problem was because of my sweats. And the sweats are really soak up a lot of water, and they're long, and so they tended to bog up inside that washing side. Now, as you can see, I washed, oh heck, about 7 t-shirts, and this is just one side. This is the other side. I washed about, if you can see it there, I washed about 7 t-shirts And there, I ran out of line, so there's my underwear and my socks all down there. About 6 pair of underwear, 6 pair of socks, all in one load. Now, I would suggest that you don't do that much in one load. I had to pull some stuff out and move it around and then put it back in. And so I kind of really did 2 loads, I would say, for about 12 minutes each load. Not bad at all. And I noticed that the agitator in there did a good job. Got all kinds of dirt and gray water out of it, drained it out, and then you can't do all of it in the spin side at the same time. But the spin side really doesn't take very long at all. So what I did is I just took about half of the clothes out of here. I took the sweats out first, and a couple items, did them first. You need to, when you put them in there, need to put this down inside it on top of the load and balance the load. Because when it first starts spinning, if it's out of balance, this thing will shake all over, but then it'll settle down and it'll run just fine. And I only ran it for about 3 minutes, and what I did is I put a little fresh water in after I washed to flush out most of the soap. Then when I put it in the spin side, I put in another bit of water. I just poured I put all the clothes in and put this thing on it, and then I poured some fresh water right on top of that. What I did is I spun it for about a minute, then I put fresh water on top of it, and that flushed out any extra soap. Because I'm real allergic. Some of us are. I'm real allergic to any type of detergent, especially Tide and the powder detergent, so I have to use liquid detergent, but even that will irritate me if I don't get all the soap out of my clothes. So I put a little extra fresh water in there after I spun it for a minute, and that will flush all the extra dirty, soapy water out of anything. And that spinner works really well. I can tell you these clothes are really, really just barely damp. And they're going to dry out here. This is in my solarium. And I've got my 2 hanging lines out here, and so these will probably dry maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. They'll be dry because there's no dripping at all. They're not dripping. They don't come out soggy, wet, or anything like that. After you run through that spin cycle, they actually come out very, very, just barely damp. You know, like if you ran them just for a few minutes in a dryer and then pulled them out, it's about the same effect.